All right, well, it's 9 o'clock. I don't see Brandon. Hopefully he will come in soon, but we do have quorum. So I will call this meeting to order. This meeting is being held electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001. Brandon, welcome. The procedures for the meeting are as per the town's procedural bylaw and the electronic meeting protocol during emergencies. And we do have a full complement and quorum is achieved. So moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Kenneth Donald, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment agenda dated November 11th, 2020 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Mr. Stapleton?
Thank you, Chair Stone. I have a pecuniary interest in the agenda item 6.2, the Mercer application.
All right, thank you. When that comes around, if you could just take your video down from the screen during that portion. All right. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Brandon Stapleton. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes dated October 14, 2020, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. Any comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public meetings to consider applications for minor variances to the zoning bylaw. The input received by agencies, public, and staff is important in order for the committee to make sound planning decisions. The procedure to be followed in these meetings will be as follows. A brief explanation of the application and any correspondence received to date will be given by staff. The applicant or the representative will be asked to provide any additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Any members of the public present will then be permitted to ask questions or provide comments respecting the applications. Any persons making representation are requested to first state their name and mailing address. Please note that presentations are limited to 10 minutes. Once the hearing is concluded, the input received will be considered by the committee prior to making a decision on the applications. If you wish to be notified of a decision of the committee, you must write a written request for notification. All right. And Jasmine is going to speak to the Read and Lovett Read application, the first one.
Thank you, Chair Stone, members of committee. The subject property is located at 114 Claren Crescent. The lot is designated waterfront and zoned shoreline residential 2 and conservation. The purpose of the application is to recognize an existing 7.43 meter squared shed constructed at the shoreline. A minor variance is required to permit a shed to be located closer to the shoreline than the dwelling and to reduce the front yard setback from 20 meters to 2 meters for a shed only. As the applicant is also proposing to construct a 60 meter square private cabin towards the rear of the lot, a variance is required to increase the permitted number of roofed accessory structures from 3 to 4. The shed was constructed in a relatively flat area of an otherwise steep shoreline behind the existing boat port and is screened by existing mature vegetation to lessen the visual impact. As the zoning bylaw restricts the number of shoreline structures to a dock, boathouse, or boat port and one additional structure, no additional shoreline structures would be permitted. Prior to the creation of the lot, an environmental study was completed which recommended the maintenance of vegetation in a natural state within 20 meters of the shoreline, with the exception of a path to the shoreline and the permitted shoreline amenity area, and also outline areas to exclude from development and accessory structures. The location of the shed appears to meet the recommendations of the study and be in keeping with the policies of the official plan. Site plan control will continue to be utilized to require ongoing maintenance of the shoreline vegetative buffer and to implement the recommendations of the environmental study. With respect to increasing the maximum permitted number of roofed accessory structures, 2 of the 4 accessory structures will be located at the rear of the lot. And with the exception of the boat port, all the accessory structures are or will be screened by existing mature vegetation. Further, the resulting development will remain under the 5% accessory lot coverage permitted in the zoning bylaw. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and to the Lake Vernon Association. No objections were received. One letter for support was received yesterday from a budding neighbor and was forwarded to committee. The application appears to conform to the official plan and provincial policy statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments about this.
The applicant or the representative are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate they would like to address committee. Chair Stone, I do see one hand raised and will now bring them into the meeting.
Great.
Please note that during the transition, your video panel will be momentarily interrupted. Once you've been added to the meeting, your video will appear in the committee member panel. Please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and confirm your name and mailing address.
Good morning.
Hi. Morning. My name's Josh. I am Southbury Lake Contracting, Highway 60 here, 365. Yeah, I'm representing Jim Reed for the minor variance on 114 Clarence Crescent. So yeah, I just don't, if there's any questions or any concerns with that, we're just trying to get that sleeping cabin approved up on the hill, as Jasmine was saying. And it was brought to our attention that the storage shed down by the water did not comply with bylaw. So that's where we're at with that.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I will ask, is there any member of the public that wishes to make any comments about this application?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I can confirm I see no hands raised.
All right, thanks very much. Committee members, are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I'll ask Mr. Wuda to take his video down, and I will be reading the motion. All right. Moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Helena Renwick, be it resolved that minor variance A26/2020 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.1.3, 3.1.18.3, 5.3.4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P to permit a shed to be located in the front yard, recognize a shed as a permitted shoreline structure, reduce the front yard setback from 20 meters to 2 meters for a 7.43 square meter shed only, and increase the maximum permitted number of roofed accessory structures from 3 to 4 to recognize the existing shed only. Any comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right, and Jasmine, Brandon, if you can take your video down, and Jasmine, if you can tell us about the Mercer application.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Stone. The subject property is located at 43 Glen Acres Road. The lot is designated waterfront and zoned natural resource floodway and natural resource flood fringe. The applicant is proposing to redevelop an existing dwelling, including the addition of a second story, conversion of a carport to a garage, expanded Muskoka room, and attached deck. A minor variance is required to reduce the required side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.4 meters for the dwelling, and to increase the permitted principal lot coverage within the natural resource flood fringe zone only from 5% to 14.5%. The property is located within the Big East River floodplain and flood fringe. In keeping with the intent of the official plan's floodplain policies, a letter was provided from an Ontario land surveyor confirming that the existing dwelling and proposed additions are located above the regulatory flood elevation and entirely within the flood fringe zone, which does permit development. In addition, an environmental assessment was completed, which concluded that the redevelopment of the existing dwelling would not have a negative impact on fish habitat or the adjacent Big East River Delta wetland. The proposed additions would be sited in an already cleared area of the lot, set back 30 meters from the shoreline, and appear to be in keeping with the character of the surrounding area of Glen Acres Road. Although the side yard setback is proposed to be reduced to 1.4 meters, the established setback of the existing building is already at 2.92 meters. The lot coverage of the existing dwelling and carport is 10.0%, representing an overall increase in lot coverage of approximately 4.43%. Despite the increased lot coverage and reduced side yard setback, the additions to the dwelling are modest and would represent an incremental change to the existing development and promote the orderly upkeep of the property. Further, site plan control will be utilized to ensure that shoreline vegetation is established and maintained in order to mitigate the visual impact of the dwelling. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. No objections and one letter of support were received from an abutting property owner. The application appears to conform to the official plan and provincial policy statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval.
Thank you very much. Call on the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or representative are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I do see one hand raised.
All right.
A reminder to please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and confirm your name and mailing address.
I see you're there, Mr. Mercer. If you can turn on your microphone and video in the bottom left of your screen.
Are we okay now?
I can't see your video.
Okay, one moment. Start video, remove mute.
There you go. Oh, you turned your microphone off.
All right.
Okay,
Are
here
we
we
okay now? I apologize for the technical difficulties. I really have no comments to make other than to say that planning has been extremely helpful in the process of our application, and I really appreciate council taking time to consider what we're requesting.
Awesome. All right, if you can just stay right there, and I'm going to ask, is there any member of the public that would like to make any comments about the application?
Chair Stone, I can confirm there are no other attendees present.
All right, thanks very much. Then I will read the application, and if Mr. Mercer, you can take your video down.
I will do my best.
Excellent, thank you. All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Donald has a question.
Okay. Are we okay? Can you still hear me?
Just one second, Mr. Mercer. I'm sorry, I didn't go to committee for questions. So, Mr. Donald, you have a question. Thank you.
Yes, I do. Thank you for inviting my question, Chair Stone. Just a quick question regarding the addition of the second story. Is that for storage, or is it for habitable space? Is that something we need to be concerned about?
It is for habitable space. It's a story and a half. So from the street side, there are no windows, and all you see is roof line. From the exterior, there is a shed type roof that tips up that allows for windows to the backyard.
Thanks very much. Jasmine, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just through you, Chair Stone, I'm not certain if Mr. Donald's question was in regard to habitable space because of the floodplain area, if there was a concern with that. And just to confirm that a surveyor did confirm that where the existing dwelling and proposed additions are located entirely within the flood fringe zone, which does permit limited development subject to it being flood proofed. And the building department would look at things like habitable are all openings to habitable space being located above the regulatory flood elevation. So the addition of the dwelling in terms of the floodplain policies, the addition of the second story, there's no concern with respect to the floodplain policies. It wouldn't have any adverse impacts due to that.
Thank you.
Can I make one more comment? We are the second owners of this property. The home was built in 1973. My wife and I purchased the property in 2012, which was just prior to our 100-year flood. And we wondered, had we just made the mistake of a lifetime? But I did ask the previous owners, in the 30 years that you own the home, did you live through any floods? And they said yes. And I said, did any water enter your home? They said no. And during that big flood, we were the only home on the water side that did not flood. So we were grateful for that. So we felt we want to live here long term. We love the location, and we'd just like to improve the property. It's tired, and I'd really like to improve it. So that's really all I'd like to say.
Have we lost our chair?
I think we may have lost everyone.
Okay.
Wait, perhaps they'll come back on. Let's see here.
You see, Mr. Mercer, you're not the only one that has technical difficulties.
Well, I pride myself on always being a Mac guy, and we usually don't have any, but I had a struggle this morning.
Has this ever happened before to you, Councillor Fitzgerald?
It has not, and we have never made a contingency plan.
Oh,
if in fact this does happen with the chair. So I don't know what to say.
It looks like we lost the entire town hall because Crystal isn't here either. So. Perhaps we should, well, I don't know if we log off and log back on again.
Let me send Bob a text.
Okay. We're still, it looks like we're still streaming on.
Yeah.
Are we?
Oh, no, it's just the four of us now. So I don't know. Yeah, we're still live.
Okay, I fired a text to Bob to see if he acknowledges.
I just sent Crystal an email.
Just give us a minute. So somebody want to start the clock?
I got a note saying that the town is having issues with Wi-Fi.
Ken, we should be able to get this in the file in about 6 months. if we
That
could.
sounds wonderful. I appreciate that. If you wouldn't mind calling my wife and letting her know, that would be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, wait till I leave the country and then we'll do it.
Yeah, staff is working on the internet problem.
Okay. They haven't notified you what we should be doing?
I'm going to
just stay on?
suggest that we just go off camera and sit patiently and wait to see what happens for 5 minutes.
All right, sounds
Okay.
good. See you guys on the flip side.
Coming back.
Jason, are you there? All right, is Jason Fitzgerald there? There he is.
Yes, he is.
All right, so that was interesting. Love this new technology and way to do meetings. Anyways, so I had forgotten to ask committee for questions, and Jasmine had informed committee about the habitable space and addressed the building being on a floodplain. I will ask, are there any more comments or questions from committee? All right, seeing none, we're gonna go to the motion, and if Mr. Mercer, you can take your video down for us, please. There we go. Okay. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Jason Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that minor variance A28 2020 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 5.9.4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008 66P. 2, reduce the required side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.4 meters for a single detached dwelling only, and increase the principal lot coverage from 5% to 14.5% in the natural resource flood range zone only, conditional on the accessory lot coverage calculated on the entire lot area 21 to 32 being decreased from 5% to 2%. The existing 17.84 square meter shed being brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. The existing 2.5 square meter shed at the shoreline being removed, and the 15-meter shoreline buffer being revegetated with native species through site plan control. Are there any comments or questions by committee? All in favor? And that's carried. All right. Welcome back, Brandon. Now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings respecting the above applications to be concluded. All right. Thank you all. Moved by Brandon Stapleton, seconded by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 9:26 a.m. All in favor? And that's carried.